Hey Beans! So, you can tell by how excited I am that this is a conspiracy video. And this is one of my favorite conspiracy videos, it's a message in a bottle video. So, the first series of messages in a bottle have wrapped up. We've gotten the adventure where we can see the sheep and we see the Phantom Fortress, and we pretty much know what all these messages in a bottle were pointing to. But there are a lot of unanswered questions that I don't think many people have really thought about. People just think about the more recent messages in a bottle and don't necessarily go through and think, what about this? Like, there are still some very interesting unanswered questions, and today we are going to cover those in this video. So I'm going to start out by just going through all of the important and relevant messages in a bottle. There are a lot of random and useless ones, but I'm just going to cover the important ones. So the second one says, we are captured by the Phantoms and are being held captive in this dark and mysterious place. Obviously, this is the Phantom Fortress, not much there. When you've been locked up for so long, it feels as though your prison is moving. This is because the Phantom Fortress can move, and so I think we all guessed it, but we know for sure this was the Phantom Fortress, and since the Phantom Fortress moves around with its giant legs and spreads chaos and destruction, this is pointing towards the Phantom Fortress. We recently overheard the Rotten Phantoms discussing their wicked plans. Well, what we've learned from the adventure is that the Phantoms actually had a plan to invade Jamaa Township itself. Their goal was to move the Phantom Fortress into Jamaa Township, but what's interesting is the next one says that their plan involved one of the alphas. So Greeley sneaks in and becomes a sheep and disguises himself, so it probably wasn't Greeley, and then Sir Gilbert runs in and rescues everyone. But there's no other alpha that really appears in this adventure that could be important. So what alpha were they scheming about? We don't really know, and this is one of those messages in a bottle that hasn't completely come full circle. We can't know who they're talking about yet, and will most likely be expanded on in a future adventure. We can no longer hear or see the Phantoms moving around. Something serious must have happened. We don't know exactly what stopped the Phantom Fortress from moving, but we can assume that some sort of Phantom has to pilot the Phantom Fortress. So what most likely happened is Greeley showed up and fought some boys, get the Phantom boys, and he got the Phantom boys, and then they stopped moving for a second, but then Greeley snuck in, and then they for some reason just continued moving along. But that doesn't seem really to add up, because once the prisoner got in, they wouldn't just keep moving. So I'm not really sure what this is about. And again, another unanswered question of why did the Phantom Fortress stop? And here's the biggest one of all. This morning we saw a very powerful Phantom speaking to the guards. It was one of the meanest Phantoms we've ever seen. We don't see any Phantoms except normal Phantoms. So who the heck is this giant Phantom, and why didn't we see him when we were invading? This is really interesting, and it means that there are still giant King Phantoms hiding within the Phantom Fortress that we have not fought. So this is far from over. We have just succeeded in a little battle, but trust me, there is still a war to come. We don't know who these giant Phantoms are or what they can do. All that we did was just get in, break out the sheep, and leave. That's it. We just basically put a little nick in the Phantom Fortress and got rid of one of its weapons. The Phantom just threw another animal in our cell. He kind of looks like us, but there's something weird about him. I was stupid and didn't figure this one out when I did the adventure. I know now because everyone left comments saying that I was dumb for it, and I was pretty dumb for it, but this was Greeley in the sheep's costume. And again, there may be some symbolism here. Maybe Greeley is evil, because you know the saying, a sheep in a wolf's clothing? It's someone who's not very threatening or dangerous, who puts on an appearance of being threatening or dangerous and is not really actually that important. Well, it's the opposite here of a wolf in a sheep's clothing. So it's someone who's super important and dangerous in an innocent skin. So it's kind of hinting that maybe Greeley is evil, but I think they just really did it to make a play on words and because it was kind of funny to laugh at Greeley because he's the worst alpha. The new prisoner was starting to tell us our plan when an alarm went off. Now this is almost definitely because of Greeley. You see, Sir Gilbert doesn't arrive until later when we go in and try to infiltrate the Phantom Fortress. So what probably happened is they figured out that there was some sort of intruder, which was Greeley in the sheep's clothing, and they went after him. The new prisoner seems super familiar. Oh wait, it's him. It's Greeley. So we thought this was Zeus or something really exciting, but it's just Greeley in sheep's clothing. And then we have the place where it gets a little more obvious. What was that in the distance? It almost sounded like a roar, a powerful, ground-shaking roar, and the gift is a Sir Gilbert spotlight. Yes, it's Sir Gilbert, and he's coming to rescue the boys. And the Sir Gilbert spotlight is Batman symbolism of here comes the hero, he's been summoned to save the poor innocent sheep. And then of course, we eventually meet him there, and this is proved. It sounds like there was a giant battle raging in our cell. Had the alphas come to rescue us? Well, basically, yes. Sir Gilbert moves in, and then the people come with him. The jammers, the Jamas come with him. We all fight the Phantom boys. We infiltrate, and then eventually we free them, as we know now. And that is the end. Those are all the messages in a bottle. They all kind of make sense now. I mean, obviously, why they said Bod, who this mystery prisoner was. Fortunately, but also unfortunately, Anna Jim did a really good job of leaving this very ambiguous, which I'm very happy about. The little Bod things and stuff like that were cool because they gave away a little bit about it, but they didn't really tell you much. They just made you want to speculate more. You know, a lot of the time when they have hints, it's just like, are you kidding me, Animal Jam? You just gave the entire thing away with your dumb hints. Like, everyone can solve that. But this was really cool because it actually left us wondering, and even when the adventure finally came out, you were like, whoa, I didn't know it was going there. That's awesome. And every single turn and every single corner seemed like something brand new that you could, like, go to the messages in a bottle. And now it may seem kind of obvious. I know, you look back and everyone's like, that was easy. But trust me, guys, back then, nobody had it figured out. I got so many emails and theories, and no one was even really close. Like, I think we all had the general consensus, but no one guessed that that was, like, Greeley who had infiltrated, or that, you know, he was in sheep's clothing, and we still haven't figured out who that giant phantom was. Stuff like that is what really makes Animal Jam lore so fascinating. They give you the easy stuff to, like, appease kids and make them feel like they're learning and, like, understanding and cracking the code, but then they throw in those big questions that not even the big AJ YouTubers or the ultimate conspiracy beans who send me all those quality emails can answer. So now the question is, who the heck is that giant phantom? Well, the biggest theory that's reigning right now is that the giant phantom would be the Phantom King. And that makes sense. It just makes sense. You know, it's like alphas versus phantom alphas, which are basically kings or like higher up level phantoms. And it would make sense that if the sheep saw this big phantom, the only big phantom that we've seen is the Phantom King. There doesn't seem to be a tier between regular phantom and gigantic Phantom King. But there does seem to be a tier above it, possibly. In Animal Jam's Return of the Alphas video, we see the alphas fighting this gigantic phantom, like bigger than the King Phantom, like it takes all 6 of their power to destroy it. So is it possible that this phantom has returned and Animal Jam is truly returning to the original lore? Because we do see on the horizon some kind of war. The Phantom Fortress is moving towards Jamal, and the Phantoms are going to need some sort of awesome secret weapon because, look, the Phantoms have a lot of good plans, but the Jamasians just, like, outsmart them every time. So how are the Phantoms really going to win? Well, through pure, brute strength and numbers. And numbers hasn't really worked. There are, like, 30,000 Phantoms in every single adventure. In fact, it gets a little annoying. But Phantoms aren't that difficult to deal with. Anyone can go through and deal with them. Like Apari showed you with his giant alpha sword, you can literally just swipe at a Phantom obstacle and do 50 damage and, like, one-shot it. It's not even a challenge to kill Phantoms anymore. We have Mechano Chompers and Alpha Swords and, like, all this crazy stuff. So what would make a giant Phantom battle epic? Well, it's not going to be, oh, trap 30,000 Phantoms in these Chomper plants, just like on their other adventures. No, it's going to be some huge boss fight, and we've already seen a Phantom King, so is it possible there's some sort of Phantom equivalent to Zeus? And not to get too far, but is it possible that Zeus has somehow been converted to the Phantoms? There's not too much evidence to support this, but Zeus has been gone for a very, very long time. We've seen no signs of him, and he's like an all-powerful creating god, and yet he's still never even sent a message or anything. So either he's dead, he's just really silent and mysterious, somehow his powers are suppressed, or he's on the side of the Phantoms. Who knows? I mean, we've already started to see these little ideas that maybe Greeley is evil, but I think it's more of like a Snape thing. Of like, Animal Jam likes to toy with the idea that Greeley might be on the other side, but in actuality, he's like some sort of complicated double agent who we can technically trust, who just has these weird appearances to him and is always kind of like away from the plan. In all honesty, Greeley really reminds me of Kogami from Psychopaths, if any of you have seen it. But that's probably best saved for another video. Let's get back on track with the messages in a bottle. Let's talk about the prizes really quickly and what they could mean about the lore. So the first one was a haunted Peck portrait, which was followed by a haunted Mirror portrait, which was followed by a haunted Zeus portrait. What in the world? That was not answered at all. I have no idea what any of these mean to this day. There was a little thing, I think it was in the Bunnies Only passage. I've only seen pictures of it. I'm not that good of an adventure boy. But there was some sort of like rumor going around that there was some little person with 2 ears running around the Phantom Fortress. And it makes sense because in the Phantom Badlands, we did hear that Peck had gone off to fight the Phantom Fortress. So it would make sense that Peck was there. But Peck wasn't a prisoner. So how the heck were these sheep, who we know now were sending these messages, sending portraits of Peck if they'd never even really seen her, besides the fact that she had 2 ears? And then why were there all these like paint splotch stools and everything? It almost seems as if Animal Jam had one plan, and then they were like, nah, it doesn't work, and they just like switched it, kind of like, you know, when you're like writing an in-class essay and you're like, oh shoot, that first paragraph was kind of wrong, I'm just gonna like change my thesis now as I go on, and then my conclusion will be something totally different. You know what I'm talking about? I don't think that's what happened. I think Animal Jam is setting up for something, but I don't understand how the sheep knew who Peck was or got their hands on a haunted Peck portrait. The lava table has started to make a little bit more sense. Greeley did have something to do with this, so maybe they were just like foreshadowing Greeley coming here, but Greeley wasn't at the prison at this time. So as to why they were sending lava tables and paint splotches, I'm not sure. But again, it kind of has this idea of like Greeley and Peck were originally supposed to be there, but then they weren't. So anyways, Beans, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.